Right now on Tech Radio, AI secrets, spacewalks, and billionaire blow-ups.
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. This is episode 1072, looking at the 7 biggest stories of the week, including Musk taking to X over the big, beautiful bill. Can ChatGPT questions be subject to freedom of information? And how the UK's House of Lords is becoming an unlikely champion for copyright. Also, our guest Rebecca Barford-Ryan will be filling us in on this month's Women in Data Science Conference.
From techcentral.ie, this is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
My name's Dusty. Join me as always, the man at the top of the tree at Tech Central. It is Niall Kitson, our editor-in-chief. Big story this week, I suppose, is Musk and Trump. I mean, we knew it was coming. The war between them has begun.
Last week we talked about it being a fairly amicable parting of ways, that maybe Elon didn't accomplish as much as he wanted to with Doge, that his initial target was to shave off $2 trillion in waste, fraud and abuse, to pay for, of course, the upward distribution of wealth to, the ultra wealthy, the oligarchs in the States. Just happens to be him as well. Also, the trashing of the very state bodies that were investigating SpaceX and Tesla. He seemed to have accomplished, well, one of those anyway. He gutted the agencies that were interested, shall we say, in his companies. However, Doge has been an unmitigated disaster. It has come up with savings of about $150 billion. On the face of it, sounds interesting, but if you dig into the data, it's a lot less than that. But we're never really going to find out how much Doge has saved the US taxpayer because Congress won't codify the actual cuts. So the cuts that Doge said it could make aren't actually going to be made. So Mr. Musk is not happy over that. But what's he's really unhappy about is the so-called Big Beautiful Bill that is the cornerstone of Trump 2.0, which is expected to absolutely explode the national debt, bring it up trillions of dollars, and kick a load of people off Medicare and Medicaid. So without getting too far into the politics of what's going on, Elon, our friend, took to X, because where else would he go, to decry what is happening here. My cuts aren't being done. This bill is absolutely disgraceful. It's full of what he called pork, which is sort of unnecessary spending. This is what I volunteered to do the exact opposite of. And of course, Congress were arguing that, hey, if Doge was doing its job, all these tax cuts for the wealthy would pay for themselves. Guess what? It didn't. We're cutting the taxes anyway.
On the tech side of things, I think it's really interesting with this is that how both of them are using essentially their own personal social networks to talk to each other. Truth Social and X, formerly Twitter. It's bananas. Anyway, as you say, that's kind of is veering slightly more towards politics than is tech. Other stories this week in tech. Now, the ChatGPT is an interesting one, okay? Because there's an awful lot of talk about, the information that you're giving ChatGPT yourself through your questions and where it is mining websites and other things to train itself. ChatGPT logs, though, are now coming under the spotlight. Why?
Yeah, and at the moment it's kind of a philosophical question because we don't have legal guidance on it, particularly in Ireland. But the question has been raised. Okay, those ChatGPT logs, those questions that people are asking directly, they're stored somewhere. Should they be subject to freedom of information? In particular, if the logs relate to a government official, somebody working in the public sector, somebody that is being given a phone, to work with, and they're using ChatGPT, is the information created on that device subject to freedom of information? When you frame it like that, Dusty, what do you reckon?
Where do you draw the line? Literally, where do you draw a line? Because basically what they're saying is, no matter what you do on a computer or on a device, anything that you input in it could be subject to freedom of information or a Garda search or police search or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Me, with my tin hat, as you know, I always keep close to me, would really put me off devices or asking anything. You know, and actually, do you know what? If you're up to no good, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have a device that you use for no good stuff with a really good VPN on it and an account of Proton.
Okay.
The questions that you ask, should they be, do you know what actually that comes down to? It's the same thing as, can they look at your Google search? You know, and I think there is a thing in place where if the police or the authorities want to take your computer and look at what you've been searching at on Google, that's what they'll do. But they'll do it more on your device rather than they will try and get into Google and demand the information off them, because I think that's just a pain.
Well, how often have we heard in news reports that, you know, some tragic event has happened and it'll be reported that, you know, in recent weeks, the suspect had done searches in Google for explosives and how to make a bomb and things like that.
That's ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? All you need is for some crackpot to have a notebook and pen and to be making notes about how he's going to do something, or to be drawing pictures of it's the same thing. So what do? Do you retain the right to break into somebody's house as the authorities and examine every notebook that they have? I think it's too far. But I think there's probably very little that can be done about it. If they want to go and examine everything you've done digitally because it's there, they probably will find a way.
Do you know what? Do you know what side of this argument you have landed yourself on?
Oh no. Go on. You're entrapping me. Go on.
I am, because there are two schools of thought when it comes to content stored on devices. There is the, you know, freely given, freely there for examination. You asked your Google search or something like that, or you have a Google profile. If that wants to be inspected, you can talk to Google. They are the owner and purveyors of the data. However, if you're talking about stuff that is shared, that is saved directly on the device, which has proprietary security measures on it, guess which company has made that argument in the past?
Apple. Yeah,
we can't tell you what this person is saying. Everything is on an encrypted device, aka an iPhone, anything running iOS.
Yeah, and we're not breaking the code.
We're not breaking the code. We're not giving away our trade secrets.
Do you know what? It's one thing. You know, I love Apple gear, and you know that I think it's outrageously overpriced, and the walled garden drives me bananas. But the one thing that I do admire Apple for is the fact that they say with their users, privacy and security. And we've had cases like that before of the police are going to Apple and saying, open up that iPhone. We need to examine it, break the passcode, whatever. And Apple just gone, nope.
Couldn't do it even if we wanted to.
Well, the funny thing is they did say that we couldn't do it even if we wanted to. So then, and I believe the last time this happened, and it was a high profile, the American police went to the Israelis, and the Israelis were able to break into that phone.
I think, was it to do with the Miami shooting?
I think it was something like that. Yeah. It was a couple of years back, but that's exactly what happened.
A couple of years ago.
So no, I don't agree with being able to go in and monitor what people are saying. We need privacy. This is now. Look, I know you and I kind of we didn't grow up with the internet around us. All right. We're one of that kind of generation with, thank God I wasn't on Facebook when I was a teenager. Because the stuff we would have put up, you want to forget about it. But I find that society in general is willingly giving up its privacy. Every single day, we are just giving up our privacy.
Okay.
All going online because that's how we communicate, and people can come in and they can discover, and even your most private things, they're still able to, with a court order or whatever, to take your device and to look at all that stuff. Look at everybody, to talk about the students going over on the J1s. And I hear a whole load of talk about people saying, be very careful about what you're saying on social media, and be very careful what's on your phone when you're going through the American border. This is crazy. Is this the world that we wanted to live in? I think it's bananas. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Personally, if you're in the public service, you have been given a phone for use specifically for your work. That device is not private. That device is subject to inspection.
Yes.
And anything you put on that phone is fair game.
Okay. Now, it's subject to inspection by whom?
Well, I mean, if you're a public sector worker by the state, if you are in the private sector, well, okay, this does open an interesting argument because they aren't subject to freedom of information. And it could be potentially something that maybe something sensitive might be said on a phone. I don't know. Some places just have for want of a better description, a kind of a bitchy work environment where people complain a lot. I would have private sector. I don't know.
I would have a very simple policy for the private sector. The way I would see it is, if that's a work phone, work own it, and work can do whatever the hell they want with it, and you shouldn't talk about anything else other than work that's in there.
Yeah.
That's the way that I see it. Your private phone and your own phone, completely different story, but a work phone is for work purposes, and the employer should be able to do whatever they want with the information that you're adding to that. Anyway, that's another side of things. Other news I was going to ask you about was we have Claude, which is a brilliant AI, and Reddit are going head to head. Why?
Anthropic, yeah. I mean, this is an argument that we're going to be talking about later on in the pod as well. How do you train? On what do you train an AI? I thought this was fairly common knowledge now, but Anthropic is taking Reddit, which is owned by Condé Nast. I think they own Reddit at the moment, and they're looking to go public with Reddit. And Reddit has said, Anthropic, you trained your entire language model, your entire LLM, on posts on Reddit, which are the property of our users. If you wanted to do this properly, you should have sought permission from each of our users to contribute to the training of your LLM.
Okay.
That is their argument. So we have been talking in recent weeks and in a little bit about how artists, people who willingly create something for public consumption, are being treated. And here is something that people created for public consumption, but on the understanding that it had a very set usage relevant for a very short period of time, and not to be used as, mashup material or anything like that. An understanding, if you will, not a legal protection, but an understanding. What are your thoughts, Dusty? Should Anthropic be coughing up big bucks? Because I mean, their LLM is based on, some might say, publicly available data, but data that was...
It's not. Reddit is a private organization, and when people put stuff in there, it's Reddit's property, if you want to put it in copyright, that kind of a way. And Reddit have done deals with other AI companies for training their information with. So they're obviously very protective over it. So now that Anthropic are dipping in and taking for free what Reddit have sold to others, I think Reddit are quite right to stick by the guns and to say, no, if you want to train your LLM, you pay up like everybody else has. Yeah.
No, Reddit is owned by Advanced Publications and Tencent. Of course, Chinese entity. They only own 5%. And Advanced Publications own 30%. So just checking there.
Right.
Condé Nast, of course, being the publisher of Wired, amongst other titles. So there you go. And thank you, Gemini, for jumping in. Oh, hang on.
There you go.
Condé Nast was an owner at one point. I wasn't entirely wrong.
There we go. Interesting. Let's move on. The other big story of the week is the Nintendo Switch. A lot of people want to get their hands on this little baby. Some lucky, some not.
As always, the most hyped game console release of the last few years, I think. You can forget about, well, I mean, don't say forget about Xboxes and PlayStations. I mean, they're there and they do they vie for the same audience. Nintendo does not. Nintendo does its own thing. Nintendo, of course, starting out as a trading card company, not a tech company. And the Switch 2, people have been queuing overnight for it. Currys have called it its biggest gaming pre-order ever. Now, here's the thing. Have people pre-ordered, and we're talking globally here, in the numbers they have in order to escape tariffs? Possibly. Is it the strength of the product itself? Probably. And it's also got a pretty good release title in Mario Kart World, which is kind of a more open world version of Mario Kart. It's not just on the tracks. It's out in the world. Out in a world. Looks like fun.
I think with the tariff side of things, I saw a story during the week about one retailer who said they'd taken the pre-orders and then they went, actually, do you know what? We're not going to be able to fulfill those pre-orders. And I think it may have something to do with the tariffs where they're kind of going, I'm not entirely sure, but they were telling people who had pre-ordered it, sorry. And you can imagine the anger. Listen, you're a gamer. Will you be going for the Nintendo Switch too?
Well, as I said, I mean, Nintendo lives in its own world.
Is that part of your world though? Is it? Not
really. Not really. I know people that love and swear by Nintendo games, particularly younger people. And hey, go for it. It's not quite my bag, but hey, good luck to Nintendo, who I'm sure will do fantastically well out of this.
Let's move right on to TikTok, who are making headlines as well this week because they've clamped down on a particular strain of a video, if you want to put it that way, which is not going down very well with health people.
You are hashtag confused.
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
Because the trend in question is skinny talk, which you would find by, of course, doing hashtag skinny talk, or would you? Actually, probably not, because TikTok has come in and decided, you know what, this isn't the kind of content we want on our platform. By all means, be thin. However, we do not want to be seen to be associated with behavior or, in this case, lack of eating, that could potentially be harmful to our users. It's probably one of the first times I've heard a social network come out and say that. So they've said that seeing as Skinny Talk has been linked to unhealthy weight loss content, we're going to block search results for it.
Is it TikTok who are blocking the search results, or has there been trouble before where, kind of outraged members of the public have been saying this is ridiculous and TikTok are only reacting to that?
Probably a bit of both. It is nice to see social networks being proactive on these things. Now, that said, was it a case of a parent group or a medical group complained? They assessed it and decided, yeah, do you know what? Blocking access is the right thing to do. Or were they monitoring their platform and decided internally straight away, actually, this is a trend we've got to preempt. Okay, let's get rid of it. Probably the latter, because, let's just be honest. I mean, they won't, social networks don't do anything unless they really, really have to.
That's what I'm thinking. Someone in TikTok is going, we don't need this grief.
Yeah, we don't need the grief. We don't need people watching these videos for 3 hours at a go, because that's what happens with TikTok. So on one level, yeah, okay. If the ends justify the means, that's fine. If people don't get exposed to material that potentially would have been very harmful to them, hey, fair enough. It is the process, it is the mentality behind it that is raising eyebrows, particularly mine. The only thing that gets these companies to react is money, followed by government. What is interesting, and let's put this in the background, is the Digital Services Act, which of course is there, thank you EU, to make sure digital platforms actually look after its users. So I think there is very much a case here that, okay, we have to ditch this content because it's actually going to cost us money to host it. What's the point?
True. I the TikTok thing is kind of like it's there.
You just don't get it, Dusty.
It's not that I don't get it. Do you know what? I am on TikTok because I have to be on TikTok to be aware of social stuff. And I don't know if it's just me, but I find it to be a very negative, dangerous social network. It just seems to be full of Irish people going, "Rah."
Well, that's what brings in the eyeballs.
Not mine. Listen, we were talking about Reddit and Claude being traded on Reddit posts and copyright and stuff like that. There's another interesting copyright story this week where the UK government is trying to circumvent copyright to train AI itself, but the House of Lords is putting a bit of a block in the way. Tell me everything.
And who would have thought? I mean, just the nature of British politics. The nays have it at the moment. You would have thought that with a Labour government being in power, that pretty much everything they propose would go through to law. When it comes to copyright and artificial intelligence, well, the House of Lords is saying no for the fifth time. They're siding with content creators. Well, I mean, let's refine it a little bit. They're siding with artists, which is great news. So the final vote, or rather Wednesday's vote, which is the fifth one, came down 221 to reject the bill to 116. So that's actually a fairly emphatic
that's
defeat
a huge
for the government.
Break. Yeah.
And, you know, why is the English government or the British government looking to erode copyright protection? Well, it's because this is people's livelihood. It's exactly, it's people who actually created something to create a legitimate human connection with somebody. And that's being co-opted by a business to do something it was never intended for. I personally am very surprised and impressed. The English government's position is blah, 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 innovation. We can't do it unless we're stealing people's stuff. The House of Lords disagrees.
And Elton John has been on it. He's one of the big supporters of copyright protection. He says it's an existential. How do you say that word?
Existential.
Existential. Thank you very much. For artists. And I don't agree with him. I don't think it's existential, but it absolutely does not help. I think that an artist will always trump an AI because an artist will always come up with something brilliant in human creativity that you just cannot replicate with a computer. But there is no doubt that it does not help artists when they're trying to do their thing if a computer is doing something that's 80% as good.
Yeah.
That doesn't help. Anyway, listen, last story for this week. We have an important anniversary this week, and it seems a bit nuts, with Ed White, a very important man. Why?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was the first American to go for a spacewalk. that's kind of important. He was part of the Gemini 4 mission, which was launched on June 3rd, 1965. We're recording this on the 5th of June, so the exact date has passed, but the period of time is still with us. Launched Gemini 4, had the grand goal of mounting a multi-day crewed mission. That's CREWED, as opposed to something that just isn't very good. And one person went out for extravehicular activity, or an EVA, which are kind of, I don't want to say par for the course, but fairly common these days. And that was Mr. White. Important to mark the date. You're a space guy. I felt it was important to mention.
Good on you. Can you imagine what it must have felt like? I mean, as David Bowie said, floating in a tin can high above the world. But then to put on a suit and open the door to go out into literally the unknown. Would you do it?
Yeah.
Would you?
Depends who's in charge of the cable.
You're a ticket. Niall Kitson, thank you for keeping us up to date with the news for this week.
Delivering Irish tech news since 2006. This is Tech Radio.
The Women in Data Science Dublin Regional Conference is taking place on June 25th at Salesforce Tower. This year's event will have a mix of talks, Q&A sessions and even a data science lab. Rebecca Barford-Ryan is a managing consultant at IBM and a WIDS ambassador. She had a chat today with Niall Kitson about what to expect.
Rebecca, for anyone that isn't familiar with Women in Data Science as an organisation, tell us a little bit about it.
Perfect. Thanks, Niall. So Women in Data Science, it can be shortened as WIDS, is a voluntary group. It started in Stanford in about 2015, and now it's expanded across the globe. So there's plenty of involvement in different countries. In Ireland, we've been working as a group for the past 3 years as part of WIDS Dublin, and we've been running regional conferences as part of this. So we're part of the WIDS Ireland Ambassador Group, and we've been running events to increase the participation of women in data science and I suppose to highlight the work of women in data science across the country. This year we have a regional conference on the 25th of June. It's going to be in Salesforce Tower, open to everyone, not just women. And we have a theme this year of data for all, with the UN Sustainable Development Goals as the core topic. We'll have a variety of speakers. We'll have a panel that will be focused on academia. We'll have Q&A sessions, networking lunch, and also a hands-on Granite Lab that will be run by IBM. So it'll be a really interesting session for people and hopefully give a spirit of the WIDS mission and kind of WIDS objective as well.
One of the things that is quite interesting in terms of what you're bringing to the table as an event is that even though it's sort of women in data science, it's more broad than that. It's more people in data science, or you happen to be interested in data science. Here's an event you can go to. How are you finding the challenge of getting that message across, that even though, yes, this event started with women in mind, but it's a welcoming space for everybody?
Exactly. It is definitely a welcoming space for everybody. All genders are welcome, and we'd love to see representations from everyone there. It is an event titled Women in Data Science, so that can be a bit off-putting for some in terms of the inclusivity, but it absolutely is inclusive, available for all to come and join us. And it's also open to all levels of professional development. So could be students, could be youths who are interested in it, could be professionals who are well established in their career. Basically anyone who is curious about data science or wants to learn more about it, or have a chance to network with people who are working in the industry, or just people who are like-minded in terms of interested in data science. It's really open to everyone, and we're hoping that everyone will be able to join us on the 25th.
One of the things that stands out when it comes to your speaker panel is that they're pretty much all based in Ireland, which makes them quite accessible as speakers. Was that a deliberate decision?
Absolutely. They are all based in Ireland this year. I suppose it's a voluntary event, so that is part of it as well in terms of logistics of getting people to the site on the day. So we were fortunate enough to be able to access a group of professionals who are accelerating in their career, and it would be great to hear insights from them on the day. It does also give the opportunity to network with people who are local to you, and hopefully that will be an interest as well to the attendees.
This year, you're in particular looking at achieving UN goals or UN sustainability goals, of which there's quite a lot of them. I think there's 17 in total. Are there any in particular that you will be zoning in on?
Yes, there are 17, so we won't be touching on all 17 on the day. It will depend on the areas of speciality of the speakers. So we will be touching on quite a few. We're hoping as well that during the lunchtime session, which we'll have extended for this year's event, people will be able to network and talk about the different 17 different goals as well, and how data science is playing a role there. So I suppose data science really and AI are hot topics, right? And they're really reshaping and having an impact in how different things are developing, and we believe that the Sustainable Development Goals is one of those areas, and data science can really help to deliver these goals.
Just looking at some of the issues in data science at the moment, whenever I tend to have a conversation with people working in or with data, the issue of standards always seems to come up. In your day job, you're working around data quite a bit with IBM. What kind of problems do you see as being kind of germane to data science at the moment? Problems that you might actually be bringing to the WIDS event for further discussion?
Data is definitely a huge remit. Data governance frameworks and data standards play a huge part in any organisation in terms of getting their data at a standard level, having their data management practices in place to make sure that their data is accurate and available for use in data science and analytics and AI implementations further down the line. So that's something that would be present for any organisation, and hopefully a known area for improvement in a lot of places, and that's something that I think will come up in the event as well on the 25th, as having the foundation set for the right data being in place so that it can feed into more data science and AI aspects.
One of the aspects to the event is a data science lab where people bring their own laptops and have a problem to work on. Tell us a little bit about how that works.
Exactly. And thanks for sending the reminder as well of people bringing their own laptops, because that's a huge part of the day. So we will have a lab at the end of the day. It's going to be a Granite lab, so Granite LLM, run by IBM as well. So it'll be hands-on on the day. People will be able to set up their the pre-steps. They'll also be sent out in advance if people have a chance to do it beforehand. But there'll be 3 lab sections that will be run through, and people will be able to basically follow on step by step. So it's perfect for people who have never worked on anything like that before from a lab perspective and who want to get hands-on experience. Totally suitable as well for newbies, but also if people just have never worked with Granite and they want to work with that in particular, it'll be a great experience too. And an hour is nice and concise. There'll be stuff that people can take away and do themselves afterwards as well in terms of the repository. So a good opportunity for people to get hands-on and ask some questions as well.
And that was Rebecca Barford-Ryan chatting with Niall Kitson about women in data science. And you can register for the Dublin Regional Conference via Eventbrite or through the link on our website at techcentral.ie. And of course, we'll keep those details in the description area of this podcast for you right now.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
That's it for our show this week. Do check out some of the stories we have for you online, including
Research Ireland and Gas Networks Ireland go in search of some big ideas. IBEC calls for a revamp of government supports for research and innovation. And Has the Trump administration found the right men for the top jobs in cybersecurity?
All of those stories and more online for you at techessential.ie. We're back again next Friday with a brand new show online and on RT Radio 1 Extra. In the meantime, do remember to share our podcast with a friend. If they're into tech, just tell them to look up Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever they get their podcasts. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, as always, thank you for listening. Have a great weekend.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.